Mike McMahan is the co-creator and co-showrunner for Solar Opposites alongside Justin Roiland, which is currently streaming on Hulu. The first question I have to ask is, was the society in Yumulak's wall always something that was planned for the show, or did that come later in development?
It was something that was always planned. It was something that was, when we were pitching the show around, when we were hoping that this show would end up as a primetime show, we thought it was going to be something that we would sneak in past a network. When we ended up at Hulu, we changed the pitch. And when we were pitching it to the executives there, we made the show in the show part of the headline of the pitch. Instead of being something we were going to sneak in, it was a highlight of the show, because we knew that an audience, when they're logging in to watch a streamer, they have the option of watching every episode. You don't have to hope that you caught it on the night that it aired. And so, Justin and I had been making Rick and Morty, which was airing weekly on Adult Swim, and you had to hope that word of mouth or somebody had caught it at the right time. With Solar Opposites, we knew we had a captive audience. We could write it totally different, and we really wanted to embrace that. And so the headline of it was, it's at a distance, it's going to look like a animated family comedy, but when you watch it, it's something totally different. It's breaking the rules, and it's bending what you think you're going to be seeing. And the big part of that is the very cinematic and dramatic story that's happening in the wall of one of the children on the show, or the replicants on the show.
So how did the idea for this show between you and Justin come about?
We'd been working on, I believe it was the end. We just finished the end of season 2 of Rick and Morty. We were looking for something to work on together because we liked working with each other. I had met Justin when I was a development assistant at 20th TV in animation. And we had just hit it off because we're both big nerds for video games and animated shows. And that's how I actually started on Rick and Morty as the writer's assistant and ended my tenure there when we sold Solar Opposites and I sold Star Trek Lower Decks. I was showrunner by the time I left. And Justin and I just get along. Like, we just think the same things are funny. And we wanted to do something that felt like it still embodied the kind of crazy sci-fi stuff that we were enjoying doing on Rick and Morty, but in a different frame. We wanted to do stuff that kind of harkened back to more of a sitcom-y, style that we grew up with. Solar Opposites starts in these sitcom-y places and then spirals out of control pretty quickly. It's almost like every episode feels like it's driving down a lane on the highway, and then suddenly people are like, oh my God, and they swerve onto a different path. And there's something very funny about that to both of us. And so we originally developed the idea. We were trying to come up with a more standard animated family comedy, but that really wasn't doing it for us because neither of us come from standard families. Like, we come from kind of crazy mixed up families. And a lot of Justin's ideas that really speak to me come from his crazy little doodles. He would do that on Rick and Morty a lot. He would come in and we'd be pitching stuff, and he would draw a crazy looking character on the whiteboard and be like, let's do a story about this. And suddenly all the writers are pitching on ridiculous things based on art first instead of the other way around. So we started digging through Justin's sketchbooks, and he had this sketch of these 2 aliens that had triangle collars, and one of them had a wide mouth and one of them had a tall head. And we started pitching on them, being like, what would a family with these 2 weirdos be like? Like, they're kind of 2 dads. They're full aliens. So their kids aren't really kids. They snip off their fingers and grow little copies of themselves in a jar of alien dirt. And I had just had a kid when we were developing it, and I had been learning that having a baby in your life is both really exciting and also incredibly terrifying. So we made this character of a little slug-like creature called the pupa in the show that is equal parts super adorable and very scary at all times. And that's where the show came from, is from these kind of initial sketches and a desire to kind of poke fun at the classic TV animated formula.
One of the characters, Terry, is voiced by Thomas Middleditch, and he is widely known for his skills as an improviser. And I was curious as to whether he brings any of those skills to the recording of Terry's voice.
Yeah, I think everybody does. We try to do that on Rick and Morty. I try to do that on Solar and on Star Trek, where you want to write the show in a way where the characters are clear for the voice actors as they're getting in the booth. Because when you get in the booth, suddenly you're cut off from all sound. You're standing in front of a microphone. You have the script in front of you. You've read it, you get it, but like, it's hard to kind of digest what it's going to be on the screen. You're not standing on set, right? Like that's all animation gigs. And so with every character on all our shows, what we like to do is we get a baseline where we record the lines in a way where you're like, this is what the scene is. Are you running? Should you be out of breath? Are you, like what is the physical kind of reality of the scene? And then give us the jokes as written straight. And then go off book. Like we ask our actors, like, what do you wish we had written here? Or now that we're laughing, like, why don't you play it in a way that is unexpected here? Like, we'll get 5 or 6 takes. Like we build in a longer kind of record session in order to give people the freedom once they get the line, once they understand sort of what we're playing for at any one moment, then they have the freedom to play with it. And a lot of that comes from Justin. Justin's a great voice actor. He plays the 2 leads on Rick and Morty. He's been a voice actor on a number of other shows. I just saw him on Invincible the other day. He popped up. And he's got great comedic instincts. And so since we're designing the show together and we knew that he was going to play one of the leads, we wanted to find folks that could match that kind of sensibility and that the lines could be performed wrong. Like you don't want everything to feel so written and so clarified that you feel like you're getting something that's been through a committee, right? You want it to feel like it's rough around the edges. And a lot of that is letting people kind of fumble over words and find stuff in a fun way. Mary Mack. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like a part of that because like Justin's known for doing that on Rick and Morty, but he also brings that to the opening credits sequence with every episode of Solar Opposites, where he has that little like riff that he does.
Yeah, I love writing those riffs because first off, our animators are so happy. There's no lip flap. It's kind of a voiceover, so we can change them without people being like, "Oh no, it's going long." But that's directly from watching The Simpsons. Bart's chalkboard. You see it on Bob's Burgers. They change up stuff like those little things where like, we live in an era where everybody's hitting the skip intro button. But if you really love a show and you know that there's these little kind of things that are buried in the opening, that's us having a good time. Like nobody needs that. It doesn't change the narrative of the show. Those are really coming from people who they like joking around. They love animation. You see like, we used to change the intro of Rick and Morty every season and put in scenes from the season and new scenes that didn't even exist. And the audience is never sure which one's going to play out. And with Corvo, it's just, the voice of the show is based around things that Justin and I like and don't like about Earth that we feel. I think everybody feels sort of like an alien in their surroundings. And getting to put in a little bit of like unrelatable alien stand-up at the opening of every episode where he's like, what's the deal with old people? Why aren't people having sex with old people? Just like things that would just never play. Maybe it would play for an alien audience, but it wouldn't play for a human audience. Writing non-stand-up jokes like that for Justin to ramble about truly is a blast.
So you have been picked up for a 3rd season. Is there anything you can reveal to us about that upcoming 3rd season?
The 3rd season is written. I can reveal. I'm looking at the list of them on my whiteboard behind my computer here. So season 2 just aired. We've got a Christmas episode that's coming later this year that, Justin and I have to give credit to Josh Bicel as well, who's co-showrunner with me, who is hilarious and has made so much TV, and Solar is like breaking TV. So it's almost like that scene in Office Space where you watch those guys kick the shit out of a copy machine. That feels like the kind of fun that Josh is having on Solar with me. And so we have this Christmas episode that's us kicking the shit out of a Christmas episode in a really fun, fucked up way. That'll be on Hulu later this year, but it's all finished. Season 3, we kind of dive into a little bit of the original idea for the show is Terry loves Earth and Corvo hates it. And over time while writing it, what we found was Terry loves Earth and expresses it. Corvo wants to like Earth. He wants to be included. He doesn't want to say that. He wants people to drag him kicking and screaming into enjoying something, which I think is kind of, a bunch of shut-in writers could all kind of understand. Like, we want to have fun, but we want to be made to have fun. We don't want to go out there and do it of our own volition. So season 1 and season 2 kind of dive into that a little bit, and they're finding their way in the world. Season 3, it's a little bit more Corvo being like, I'm going to figure out how to have fun. Like, I'm going to figure out why everybody else likes it here, and we're going to see what happens with that. And that's happening with the aliens. The wall story gets blown up season 3. We have some big bills to pay that we ended on season 2 with. with the narrative going on, with the drama in there, and it gets really crazy. The storyline with Sherry and Tim and Houck and all those guys like really comes to a boiling point, and we introduce kind of, first season it was sort of a War of the Roses, Escape from New York. Second season it was kind of like a CSI Mindhunter sort of Red Dragon type narrative. Third season it's a new type of dramatic narrative that I don't want to give away just yet, but it feels like it's new. The comedy writers who write on Solar Opposites have a blast because half of every episode we're writing a drama, and you get to pretend you're a drama writer for a little bit. You get to put on your drama hat and get to write serious stuff, even though it takes place in a wall. And then I'm really excited. We introduce one of the ideas at the beginning of Solar Opposites is we wanted to introduce the wall and follow that. And then when you think you know what the show's about, we introduce another show in the show that springboards off of an event that happens with the aliens that you don't expect to grow and snowball into something that becomes more important and bigger. And you'll see that every season we tend to be getting more episodes because we need more bandwidth for the alien stories and the wall to kind of cohabitate. And so third season, big wall stuff, amazing wall stuff, the beginning of a new show in a show that has nothing to do with the wall, that's even more us cosplaying as drama writers, and really, really funny stuff with our alien family, all mixed together.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our panel in our group panel in just a little bit.